The headline from NBC News reads, "Parents file a police report after teacher offers LGBTQ-themed book to her middle schoolers," with a subheader that reads, quote, "The notion that I was putting children in danger because of books, I knew I couldn't go back," said teacher Sarah Bonner. Here's the real story. The teacher provided a book to middle school children. These are kids who are probably between 9 and 12 years old. The books included instructions on adult activities with explanations on consuming bodily materials. I want to keep it very light. I'll explain in greater detail and show you some examples later on, but considering I'm just about 1 minute into this video, I don't want to overload you just yet. This teacher provided a book which explained to minor children around the ages of 10 or 12 years old how to log on to adult gay sex apps to find random encounters to engage in sex. When a parent found out what was in this book, they called the police immediately. I believe the only reasonable assumption that can be made is that this teacher is a pedophile who is trying to groom children and teach them about lewd, lascivious adult behaviors. And by offering instruction on how to use sex apps for random encounters, I can only assume this teacher had ill intent, to put it mildly. Does NBC News explain any of that? No. And it's kind of shocking. The question is why? I don't know. I don't know the intentions of the journalist, Danielle Campoamor, but I'm wondering why she omitted from this story these details breaking down what was actually being given to these children. There's no way this journalist is unaware of it. Anybody who looks up why a police report is filed is going to ask questions about what this teacher was giving to these children. The only conclusion I can make is that the journalist is trying to protect pedophiles. Now, there's a lot you can surmise after that fact. Perhaps the individual themselves, Danielle Campoamor, perhaps she is also a pedophile. I don't know for sure. The journalist is not being accused of providing materials to children in the way this teacher is. But I would say I have questions about why they would seek to obfuscate what really happened. To put it simply, if you heard an adult was going to 10-year-old children to offer them instructions on how to use anonymous gay sex apps for random encounters, I mean, we would arrest that person, would we not? This is what the teacher did. Why would anyone try to obfuscate that and claim it was just a book? Why is this journalist doing it? You decide. I have no idea. I mean, I have my opinions, and I think most people will come to that conclusion, but let me just say the culture war is getting insane. The divide between what we believe is acceptable and what the left is pushing is becoming absurd. I have a video for you, I'll show in just a moment, of people cheering on a small toddler at a drag show performing it's adult dancing, right? It is on the line where I would call it grooming, something that is very, very bad. It's not anything overtly visually shocking, I should say. It's not graphic in any way. They have a child dancing on stage to adult music. I want to make sure that's very clear in the beginning of this video. Why are they doing this? Why are they introducing children into this behavior? And why provide them these instructions? I can only assume it's because they're pedophiles. That's it. Let me start by reading you this story from NBC News. Sarah Bonner has been an Illinois middle school teacher for 20 years, and she has always tried to offer her students a diverse collection of books. This year, a parent called the police over her book choice, full stop. According to Bonner, it was multiple parents, plural, not a single parent. It started on Monday, March 13th, 2023, when she held what she calls a book tasting for her students. I wanted to give them a smattering of fiction and nonfiction to choose from on a day that we call Reading Monday, Bonner told Today.com. We just read and celebrate books. One of those books was Juno Dawson's book, quote, "This book is gay." It's a best-selling nonfiction book that's billed by its publisher as an entertaining and informative instruction manual for anyone coming out as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or trans. In fact, it's more than that. It's a book explaining how to perform kink and other sexual acts and engage in other lewd and lascivious adult behavior. The book is not for children. It is not listed as being for children. This teacher provided it for children. You want to argue it's just for kids. Imagine if a teacher gave 50 Shades of Grey to children. Imagine if a teacher gave a Playboy to children. Now, many leftists are already saying, but Playboy is showing graphic images. So is this book. The book contains many graphic images and instruction. Things that will be harmful to children physically can put them in the hospital. Quote, by Wednesday, I received notice that parents had gotten a hold of pictures from that book that their child had taken in class. By Friday, I was told that parents, plural, had filed a police report against me for child endangerment. Officers, if you're there, if you're listening, arrest this woman. She must be convicted. Hopefully she's not in a jurisdiction with the Soros DA. Today.com reached out to the local police chief, who confirmed the report but declined to comment further. The notion that I was putting children in danger because of books, I didn't feel safe. I knew I couldn't go back. Over the years, Bonner has watched her students graduate and go to college, only to return a year later because she says they had a tough time acclimating to bigger, more diverse spaces. I wanted to do something to support them, said Bonner, who has a 10-year-old son. Please, officers, take this child away from this woman. I'm not a big fan of the government child system, but I think this child is in serious danger. I believe this woman is a pedophile. She has provided adult lewd images and instructions to children, and I believe that's the only reasonable conclusion, that she is a danger to her child. After listening to her students' questions and interests, Bonner structured a curriculum that she says included a diverse library of texts, including books centering Black, Indigenous, and LGBTQ characters and themes. I've been fortunate up until now to be supported by the communities that I've taught with, Bonner says. The signs of potential issues started at the beginning of the school year in this heightened culture war that's continuing to build nationwide. This is the tweet from NBC News. It says an Illinois teacher offered her middle schoolers a best-selling LGBTQ-themed book. Parents filed a police report over her book choice. So we have this image that is censored, partly because it shows lewd and graphic images and gives children instruction on eating feces, eating male fluids. Should 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds, I mean, these are middle schoolers, should they be given a book explaining the process by which you consume male reproductive fluids? What would you think of an adult who went to a child and gave them instructions on how to do these things? You'd say they were a pedophile. You'd say that they were a groomer pedophile and they should be removed from children, and this individual has been. Now, there's more, of course, but I worry if I were to show more from this book on YouTube, YouTube would likely take the video down for violating its rules. That's how egregious the book is. But I do believe I can show you a bit more because these don't have overt images, just weird pictures, but very descriptive behaviors. Talking about bumming, telling children, instructing them on how to insert things into orifices in their body. One section is called a pro-sex app explaining how these children can hook up with adults in random encounters and how to get them on their phones. Why would a teacher provide instruction to children on how to have sex encounters with adults? Because the teacher's a pedophile. Now, of course, what NBC is doing, and what many of these leftists do, is they try to put up the LGBTQ shield and claim that criticism of a teacher instructing children on how to engage in random sex, likely with them, is actually just an attack on the LGBT community. My assumption is this. The reason this teacher is providing these materials to these children is likely so that the teacher can lure these children into dangerous circumstances. We do know that predators who target children tend to be people the children know, and there is a high likelihood, there is a high instance of teachers abusing children. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. And I don't think it should be a surprise that NBC News is also trying to protect pedophiles. They say more than 1,600 books were banned during the 2021 school year, according to a report from PEN America, a nonprofit that advocates for free expression in literature. Quote, "It's not necessarily about what happened to me. It's about how things have really changed for students. Notice they don't actually tell you, as I already have shown you, what's in the books. They don't want you to know. They want you to think that this is just a book about being LGBTQ. They don't want parents to know what was in it, because if the average person reading NBC News saw these images, they would be angry and offended. In fact, local news outlets likely can't show the images because it would violate some policy or regulation." According to a 2020 National Literacy Trust research report, most kids aged 9 through 18 say it's important to read books from a range of backgrounds. You see how they do this? Well, of course reading books is important. Of course banning books is bad. But we're not talking about banning books based on ideology. We're talking about restricting adult materials and instruction to children. Now, that's a big difference from banning a book. It's not like we're saying don't read Catcher in the Rye. We're saying don't give instruction to children on your strange proclivities. That's what they're doing. Nearly half said they liked to read stories with characters who are different from them. But this book isn't that. This book is an instruction manual, as NBC News already described. Sarah Bonner has been a teacher for 20 years. The caption says, here's the image of the individual. "Those in favor of banning books in school often argue they're protecting children from inappropriate content and advocating for parental rights in school. And that's about as close as NBC News will get to explaining that they are providing instruction on consumption of male bodily fluids, male reproductive fluids, to children." Why? Why? You tell me. Bonner says that she understands parents know their children best and believes that both parents and educators have that love and care in common. "The difference is that I have that love and care for all students, not just a singular student." You see, and there it is. In regards to the book that was challenged in my classroom, it was a message to the LGBTQ plus community in my room and in my district that they're less than. No, it was parents who said, why is a teacher providing instruction to a young 10-year-old or so child, 10, 11, or 12, on how to meet adults for random sex encounters? Now, that doesn't sound right, does it? That's what the book talks about, gay sex apps. She says she has love for all of her students. You see, is this the language used by a pedophile who's explaining that they're trying to provide this instruction to the children? The day after Bonner learned about the police report, she received a letter from her school district. She had been placed on administrative leave. Do you think the school placed her on leave arbitrarily? Do you think that the parents in the school conspired to stop a teacher simply because the teacher was trying to avoid a book ban? Something doesn't add up, right? Whether you think I'm right or wrong, ask yourself this. Why would a parent file a police report and the school place this teacher on leave? Could it be that there is something dark behind this teacher that has warranted even the school to say, we got to get this teacher out of here? Today reviewed a copy of the letter, which said in part the district recently became aware of certain allegations against Bonner and was currently investigating. Until the investigation was complete, Bonner was told not to perform any duties for the school district. Today.com reached out to a school district superintendent for comment, but did not immediately hear back. Bonner says she decided to resign, and there it is. Now she's fleeing. I think this is indicative of guilt. Now, look, innocent until proven guilty. Just because someone filed a police report doesn't mean, she's guilty of anything, except, I will add, she admitted to doing it. She admitted to doing it. Then when the school says we're going to investigate, she flees. And NBC News, of course, is saying it's just a book. It's just a book. No, I think this teacher was probably doing something. And the school was like, we better look into these allegations. And now she's fleeing. No. I just quit. What? Why? If you didn't do anything wrong, why would you quit? Interesting. I couldn't be the professional I've worked hard to be, she says. It makes no sense. If you were at work, let's say you worked at a phone store, and someone came in and said, there's a phone missing, someone stole it, we're investigating you. Would you just walk out the door and throw your shirt on the ground and be like, I refuse to work here, how dare you? Or would you be like, yeah, I didn't take anything. Check the cameras. Wouldn't you want them to check the cameras? I think people are innocent until proven guilty, but we also investigate people we think did the crime. That is to say, there could be a suspect who doesn't get arrested, but we investigate that suspect. We check security cameras and surveillance. I'll tell you this, if someone's accused of a crime, but not charged, not indicted, nor convicted, and the police are like, we want to just do some investigating into where you were on this night in question when the crime was committed, and they go, okay. And then they turn around and run full speed and try and flee. I'd be like, okay, they probably did something. Again, innocent until proven guilty. The investigation won't stop. But I just think that is suspect. I don't want to be so definitive and absolute. Running away from cops doesn't always mean guilt, and you are innocent of any wrongdoing until proven guilty. But what about the instance where the police say, sir, we have probable cause to detain you because you've been accused of a crime. Can we check your pockets? And then they run. The police have probable cause to detain you and search your pockets. If a teacher is being investigated for providing lewd and lascivious material to children and then says, I quit, I'm leaving. I have to wonder. The following Thursday, the school district held a special board meeting and voted unanimously to accept Bonner's resignation. My first instinct was the kids, Bonner says, adding that many of her current and former students spoke during a board meeting to say that her classroom was a safe space. But isn't that what pedophiles do? They go to children, give them candy and treats, and say, you can trust me. Your parents wouldn't understand. It's safe here. They try to separate them from the parents, convincing children it's safe. If I am a safe place, and I'm leaving, what does that do for our students, Bonner asks. What about the kids? Has always been a question rooted in everything I do. Thinking about what happens to them was definitely hard. Very, very, very disturbing. Very disturbing considering what I've already shown you. I can't read this. I'm going to paraphrase. Here's what it says. It says, placing male fluids in your mouth is a no-no. It goes on to explain in more detail. It has passages explaining the benefits of using Grindr for anonymous and random adult hookups, and they're giving this to children. Why? Is it unreasonable to say that it appears this teacher is grooming kids? I think that's what we're seeing. And then we see this story. Florida teacher says she's under investigation for showing Disney movie to fifth grade class. Yes, the movie Strange Worlds, which includes a gay character, and she says that's why she's being investigated. I don't believe it. I just don't. I think these teachers are lying. I think we know that there's a problem of teachers abusing children. And the left likes to respond and says there's a problem of priests doing the same thing. And I'm like, yes, okay. We should investigate them as well. But they're not a governmental institution. So those are private matters that need to be resolved, and we should investigate these people. This is public schools. These are public taxpayer-funded institutions. If the government is facilitating criminal abuse against children, that is a priority. That is something we must stop. This is where we are as a country. Here's the video I mentioned earlier. A rooftop bar in Melbourne hosting a drag show. They brought a child on the stage to twerk, a child who appears to be about 6 or 7, maybe 5 or 6 years old, as the crowd all cheers and screams, smiling. What are they clapping and smiling for? This is the divergence of our culture. This is the divide in the culture war that I do not believe can be rectified. They are creating an environment where teachers like this are giving instruction to children on how to meet adult individuals for random sexual encounters. And when called out, they simply say, they're banning books. And people fall for it. The only thing I can say is this. Keep your kids out of these schools. Do your best. Start getting away from these cities. I made a joke on Twitter, as I often do, that we must accept the sacrifices to Moloch to course correct our civilization. And I wonder if what that's really what it's about. I mean, I think about this. You hear about these old child sacrifices, and I'm like, what if what they were really doing was just getting rid of these people? That's horrifying. It's terrifying. These leftists are sterilizing their children and aborting their children. And so I guess the reality is, so long as you keep your kids safe from these predators and pedophiles, give it 20, 40 years, within a couple generations, our country will course correct. And we will remove the depravity and the evil to a great degree from society. It's almost a self-correcting problem in that these individuals abort their kids and sterilize their kids. It's horrifying. I think this woman is deeply evil. Evil. And we've seen similar things like this. Of course, we have the book Gender Queer that I often will show to people. Conservatives, many of them haven't even read it. They don't even know how horrifying the book is and how it explains the author is sexually aroused at the thought of being a man, the female author. And then she explains that in her grade school, she tells the children to refer to her in certain ways. It's kind of obvious what these people are doing, isn't it? Where are the police? It's time to start calling the police. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.